Here's to the grind. We'll tear it down. There's nothing it can never do to take down our crown. And we will pop them down and make drum sound. There's something inside from this is sneaking around. Now watch the ice steel. We're fighting death. Yeah, we're fighting death. We're fighting death. We're fighting death.
Yo, welcome back, governors, to Osiris League Season 9. I am your host, Sturdy Dan Gaming. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Brian Koo. Happy to be casting with you again, brother. How you doing?
Dan, it's good to be casting a big match with you. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Glad to be back at it.
very much excited. Brian has informed me that he has been fighting in Kingsland all day yesterday, too, and it is also like 6 a.m. for him, so 6 a.m., right?
Well, right now it's only 5:55, but
Yeah, we're close, so
pretty much right.
gotta appreciate the man and on his grind. So very happy to be back with you. Today we find ourselves back in the realm of Bastet for the semifinal showdown, 16 OT from the kingdom of 1316 versus 489 of the kingdom of 2489. 16 OT is an 11-time, or I would say 11-star KVK winner. I got roasted for this in my 1093 interview that I did yesterday. So 11 stars with a season 7 Sweet 16 appearance and a season and the season 8 runner up in the realm of Horus. 2489 in their own right are 7-time KVK winners with an impressive Osiris League resume, season 2 Grand Prix champions, and posing an Elite 8 appearance in season 3. Season 6 Realm of Sobek champions, along with a Final 4 appearance in Season 7 and runners-up in Season 8. 2 juggernauts with tons of experience. This is going to be quite the semi-final showdown. Brian, any thoughts initially on this matchup?
Well, that's a good breakdown, Dan, and I had forgotten that 16OT had won 11 stars. How many stars does your kingdom have, by the way?
7.
Seven.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, 11 stars for 1316 is very, very impressive. What I remembered about this kingdom coming into this was that they are a kingdom that has maybe overachieved in certain ways, at least on the resume front. They finished second in the realm of Horus last season. They were a bit of a surprise second place finisher, losing to 93T in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
They had a slightly easier road to the finals than 93T did, but they did get the job done and make it all the way to the finals. In terms of KVKs, I think 1316 has at times been very opportunistic. They managed to ally with 960 in a KVK last year and then beat up on, I think, 1846 in Kingsland, in Kingsland that they were favored in,
Mm-hmm.
being allied with 960. At other times, I think 1316 has had a bit of a reputation for, maybe sometimes having some pretty good diplomacy, let's say, where the KVKs went in their favor. That's how you often get to 11 stars, is you
Mm-hmm.
don't have like super tough KVKs every time. So this is a team that has really made the most of what they have,
Mm-hmm.
and they've lasted for a long time. And now, as kingdoms consolidate, being one of the top Korean kingdoms, they've probably managed to bring in a lot of talent. And we're going to see how they do today against a very formidable opponent in 2489, former Osiris League Grand Prix champions. And, on paper, 1316 is the favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
They're favored in like the betting markets and the Eye of Talent markets. But I think that 489 presents a lot of difficulties for them here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost like we've seen in previous matches with like Kingdom like 2377, where 2489 in their own right is kind of going through this like transitional period where there is, from what I've heard, talks of a merge that is going to be coming soon. So 2489 kind of has, I don't want to say fallen off a little bit, but they're not as strong as they used to be. But that strength doesn't have anything really to do when it comes to Osiris League, right? They have proven themselves to be very strategic, being able to kind of impose their will on some of these teams. And with these realm switch ups a little bit here, it's going to be interesting to see a little bit, like, I guess, one of these newer kingdoms in terms of Osiris League going up against a kingdom that is, or in a team that's relatively seasoned in 13-16. So I'm definitely going to be keying in on that. I'm just looking here on our notes too, which is quite interesting that the skills look pretty much the same. I would say the one thing that we're going to have to look out for is 16 OT with time warp on their bar, and 489 not opting for the time warp. So we've seen a lot of that strategy where you kind of no mark into time warp, or time warp into a no mark, which we've seen really kind of inflate these scores. So that is going to be one of the things that I'm going to be looking out for, is some of the skill usage here from these two teams.
Yeah, it's interesting. I noticed the same thing. And one of the teams that I cast last week also did not have time warp on their bar.
Mm-hmm.
Time warp does take up a skill slot. I mean, it's an amazing skill, but it does take up one of your 6 skill slots. And, oftentimes you can get away with only using To the Death once in a match, only using no mark once in a match. And then that does allow you to have one extra skill. I would say on 49's bar last week, they had Heaven's Grace instead of that time warp. That helps them in the mid. And listen, 13-16, they won their mid last week 4 arcs to nothing. 13-16 is a very strong mid team. So a little extra juice for 49 on the mid. On the sides, 13-16 lost last week, and 489 is a very good side team.
Kind of a little bit of opposing styles here as we look to get into the match. And there's always that like contrast, right? I think we've seen that a lot too, and a little bit kind of shift in this season because of the play of no mark. But you're really seeing teams now kind of lean a little bit more towards this structure focus. But that's not to say that you can't still play a mid arc focused match and come out victorious. But I do want to say that we've probably seen it sway a little bit more in terms of those teams who are pulling off these no mark plays with time warp in hand have been proving to be, the more successful, at least from what I've seen. So going to be interesting to see here with contrasting styles a bit as these teams are now teleporting in a minute until the gates open. Brian, who you got winning this match today?
Dan, I am putting my Oryx on 489 today. I think that they probably have the better account strength. And from what I have heard, they have definitely been practicing with some of the top Osiris League teams. They've been playing against the 960 teams, both GT and MX. Also been playing against Beer, which I think we have to throw into the top echelon of Osiris League teams. Have heard less about what teams 16OT is practicing with, but I just think that 49 is really one of the best teams in this entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, even as you're looking around here, I mean, you have the notable names, obviously Arvix, Fa, and then you have the the squad leaders up here. Yeah, I think with the experience that this team has have, as you see the Grand Prix skin here that they won a few seasons ago, nice little flex there. And yeah, I mean they are pretty seasoned and they are proven champions. So we are gonna see how this one plays out here as the gates start to open. The typical energetic plays being used. And these openings have become rather interesting. And if anything more important, I mean, the whole aspect of no mark before going mid on the first rotation has just like such huge swings, on these points. And it kind of really kind of dictates a little bit, more so than what arc. It's quite fascinating what no mark has been able to do to arc matches now.
Yeah, no mark. An early no mark is going to put the enemy obelisk under massive threat. It gives you a boost when you are attacking the enemy obelisk. It gives you a boost when you're defending the enemy obelisk, and it shortens the capture time by 1 minute. So if you do take the enemy obelisk with no mark on, you're going to actually flip that building really quick and like turn the match in your favor. We didn't talk about that before the match started, but both teams have to be aware of these like early threats, these early home run plays. They are absolutely on the table in a match like this. Two teams that have different styles. Both teams might feel like they're the favorites, and that might limit how risky they are at the start. but it's out there and it's so viable that both teams are thinking about it big time.
Yeah, you do have to honor those plays. Like at the very least, like I mean, obviously you have to have your garrison captains in here on these obelisk plays. And maybe even keeping like a small contingent of troops, like these troops who are marching up to the sky altar now, like they do kind of those are going to be like kind of like a first line of defense if something does happen on these obelisks. But yeah, these obelisk plays have been proven to be quite tricky to deal with, and I do kind of like that aspect that it's still viable because again, it keeps honest. It's a layer in the gameplay of these arc matches, and this guy is zooming up here. We might get a little something here. It's smaller march on the T1, so that it should be relatively safe. But yeah, these obelisk plays have been quite dynamic in this Osiris League season. Obviously, we had the 60 GT massive upset, historic upset, I should say. So absolutely on the table for these teams. So you have to honor it straight up.
Definitely. And in terms of unconventional plays, I think what we can notice here is that 16OT is going heavy to the middle.
Yeah.
More marches going middle here than I've almost seen in any match in a couple of years. Now, 489 is going to spot this out. You can see both teams did put a sentry in the mid. And so they are going to see this rotation. 49 is not sure what to do with it yet, and they are very heavy in both their inside lanes. But pretty interesting stuff from 16OT here. I mean, Dan, what can they do from this position in the mid? I mean, is this anything other than an obelisk play here? It could be like a Shrine of War play to the top side or something. I don't know.
I was going to ask you the same question. I don't know if I've seen something like this in a while, if I've ever seen one. And you can see 489, as you did call it out, they did sniff it out with the sentry, so they know that they know that it's coming, and they are now reacting to it. But yeah, I'm not sure. And even too, like they kind of slowed up the tempo a little bit with some of these marches in the back line, and now they're kind of like staggering their troops over. So yeah, I'm quite curious as to what this play is going to lead to. And we can see here on the bottom side as well, maybe in an attempt to pull some of those resources from this outside lane, because they are quite heavy on that outside lane for the sky altar as well. Very interesting openings here. And then you can even see a little bit more of a commit over here from 489 going up to that Shrine of Life, which is what we've seen some of the Chinese server teams really take after as well. This initial murder ball going on, and 489 is probably going to get wiped here. Very interesting. Murder balls.
There was an Eleanor in there. I saw an Eleanor from 16OT in that murder ball. If I had to guess at what happened here, is I think they were probably setting up some sort of sneaky tactics play on the obelisk, but then they saw the 49 marches spot them out. Right, 49 was there scouting, trying to see what's going to go on.
Yes,
and you can just cancel it at that point. Like at that point, you can cancel your play and just fight in the open field. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But the only problem is they have no chance at this desert altar, right? Like we're seeing 49 pick up the opponent really early in this field. Like they're way in front of their own building. 49 is going to be very comfortably defending the desert altar, most likely. And so it's like a little bit of an advantage for 49 to pick up the surprise attack. Actually, they're still going for the obelisk, Dan. They're still heading for the obelisk.
Oh wow, what a commit there! And this makes sense because 16OT has popped no mark. So in an attempt to go and snipe the obelisk, maybe if anything, maybe they're going for just the teleports to get some of the extra teleports, maybe. But what a commit here to go for this obelisk. I think that's a little bit, like you said, no harm, no foul. You can kind of cancel the play. You haven't used any skill points for it. Nomark still kind of playing into that, but Nomark being so versatile, I mean, you're going to be able to get the gains from it on your altars anyway. But now kind of like compounding the effect that Nomark can have and trying to snipe the obelisk from 49. And 49 responds with a dust up, which I think will help them in this scenario.
You said no harm, no foul. I think it was no harm, no foul before they cast the skill, but once they cast no mark, it's a real commit here. There's no rally on this building. One thing to say, they did not launch a rally on this obelisk. This is only a swarm. They're getting here not at the same time. Some of their marches are still walking here. other marches are swarming. They may flip this Eleanor, which slows the teleports. Hard to imagine that they're going to really flip this building and capture it. And they might not even get it, Dan. I mean,
Yeah.
feeling pretty good from 49, killing off the swarmers. It's looking like this Eleanor is going to hold.
Yeah. Good response from 49. And yeah, I mean, they just simply kind of have to just keep stuffing this thing. And it looks like more marches are still coming. Oh, no, those are the sad faces. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, they're really going for this thing here. But no, those are just the sad face trains going back. 5 minutes until Arc is going to spawn about here. There is a 3 altar flip for 49. First occupations have not yet started to cash in. 16OT is going to have to start making a move on this top side here to reobtain their home desert altar. But this map is looking quite red. So no mark going for the obelisk play and not really getting a lot of value out of it with holding some of these extra structures that you really want to have in hand when you pop that no mark skill. So 16OT might be a little bit playing from behind here. And we're only 10 minutes into the match.
Yeah, it's really a double whammy with this early no mark because they used a skill that they could have used elsewhere in the match. They could have used those skill points for the first mid, but they're also just not getting even their basic default value from that no mark because they don't even hold their own buildings.
Yep.
They don't have either building on the top side. They've already failed on one rally on the Shrine of Life. This desert altar, they're looking okay at the desert altar. This is the saving grace here, which I don't think the first capture has been taken here. And so they look like they can flip this desert altar back. This was kind of a necessary play here for 16OT to stay in this thing early on. So a good attack at the desert altar to flip this back. They've got their 2 buildings on the bottom side back. So
Starting
it's
to
just
stabilize.
yeah, starting to stabilize, but I think that 49, as we see the scoreboard now, 4,000 to 1,000.
Wow.
49 has a really nice lead here at the start, and almost not by their own doing. It's more from the mistakes and risks from 16OT.
Yeah. You talk about those like unforced errors and stuff too, and it's almost like 16OT just kind of gifted these points to 49. And now too, you got a little bit of a rotation here coming off of that Shrine of Life, which is going to kind of slow up some of these marches. These guys are going to try and get back for this mid arc fight potentially, or kind of come back and play on defense. You kind of have to play that a little bit situationally, as 16OT is still trying to get back this Shrine of Life, which is going to be pretty effective, especially heading into the first arc fight with troop health and march speed. So starting to stabilize here, but I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to get enough troops over here into the middle, as these rotations might be a little late, since they're on the back foot on this occupation game right now.
The rotations could be late. Both teams are streaming from the start zone. What I'm seeing from 49 is they're actually very committed to the sides here. They have a lot of players on both sides of the map, working these buildings games. So they might be trying to like parlay this early advantage into A, contesting the mid, but B, also flipping these buildings back. Again, no march is still active it's wearing off just about now. The no march is wearing off just about now. But yeah, 49 is pressuring both the mid and the buildings. They did just flip the sky altar again on the bottom side.
Would you say this is an opportunity for 489 to pop no mark of their own going into this first mid arc fight, and especially with how you kind of breaking down that they do have players still everywhere? Would you expect a no mark coming in soon from them?
I would probably expect a bunch of mid skills here. They have a huge skill point advantage mid. They probably have a numbers advantage here. They're going in very early right now, not popping skills. This is not perfect for like using more skills, because do you really cast Heaven's Grace right now in this fight?
Yeah.
You don't really want to cast To the Death here either. So an interesting early go in by 49. They almost don't. It almost like looks like 49 doesn't like that they just went in, because some of their players have retreated.
Yeah.
Kind of a sloppy commit by 49, but they still have like a really nice points lead for this mid fight, 90 seconds before the arc spawns.
Yeah, we've started to see this a little bit, or at least I have on some of the matches that I've been streaming, that there's a little bit more of these early engages, right? Like I think like the positioning I don't know what it is with the season, but I think 2 or 3 consecutive weeks now I've seen early engages, and then seen them pull back, and then you get this kind of pendulum effect. So it's quite curious how the game is starting to evolve a little bit, where like people would literally just sit there and stare each other down. I mean, even last season where we started to see like the siege towers start to have an impact, because teams would literally just sit there until like a minute or so until the engage time. And then this season now you're just seeing a little bit more of these earlier engages, a little bit more pendulum effects in these like mid arc goes, and it's just interesting to see how the game is like evolving in a way. And interesting calls from 489 here. 20 seconds until arc is going to spawn. They do have pretty sizable control of this middle. There's another contingent of murder balls fighting in the back. There's just fighting going on all over the place in this match that I'm not used to seeing fighting on. This match is quite interesting. I don't know if I've seen anything like this in quite a while.
Yeah, 16OT marches, they just love to go to the middle and not do a whole lot. But, 49 is essentially going to win this first arc without casting any skills. Neither team cast any skills mid, which is pretty wild. Yeah. 49 wins this thing comfortably. They've also got a 1 altar advantage right now. Wouldn't be the worst time to cast no mark. Yeah. Because they do have a bit of a points lead in that sense, but they can wait. No rush. And first arc, so the first captures went 49's direction, and the first arc went in 49's direction. That ends up being a very significant lead for 49 at this point. And 16OT is going to have to come up with some answers here. And it's tough because they have been a mid-focused team in the past.
Yeah, and you're actually kind of like, at least for me, I'm actually a little surprised that the score isn't as like different as it is, like at least the gap, because 16OT just, it doesn't look very clean, I would say. So I would expect the lead to be a little bit bigger, but we are going to have a true true score difference because of 489 controlling that arc. So about 9,700 points for them to the 4,900 points for 16OT, which would be the true score. Yeah, and like you said, like this is such an interesting match because we're seeing a lot of stuff that we don't usually see, and on top of that, or in addition to that, no skills being used first mid. Like even still, like there's still no skills being used from 489. They have to be sitting with a full skill bar here. I'm questioning where the skills are going to start to come into play, because they have the arc safely in hand. They're going to go actually cash the arc. Actually, they're not going to hold on to this thing. So that might be the play here for 489, since they are so comfortable and they know they have that skill point advantage potentially, though, because 16OT still hasn't used any skills, so they could have probably refreshed their skill bar as well. I'm a little lost. I'm a little lost, Brian.
One interesting wrinkle to add to all this confusion is that 489 insta returned that arc. They went to that middle outpost and instantly returned the first arc. So yeah, that's an interesting calculation. I feel like I would have just held it and like thought about things.
Yeah.
But 49 is comfortable enough to make this at least a 3 arc game. If anything, that plays into 16OT a little bit, because you're just putting more points on the board, more potential points to get scored in this match, which is what 16OT needs, because they are literally getting doubled right now in points.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Like, why give the opportunity for more points? Like, you could just simply hold on to that thing, wait for them to make a potential mistake with some of the skill usage, because again, they're probably both sitting close to about 10 points. And usually when teams will go in and score an arc quickly like that, they know that they have the advantage on the skill point bar, which is eventually going to lead to an advantage in the middle fights. So yeah, I mean, we were talking as we were both not in the best of shapes today, and now we're getting an interesting match, which is really keeping us on our toes with things that we rarely kind of see in these arc matches. This is probably one of the most unconventional arc matches that I've seen in quite some time.
Why don't we go to I know you just went to the Sky Altar. Why don't we go to the Desert Altar on the top side?
Okay.
and just look at what a good attack looks like, right? Now, this is well defended, but what you're seeing a top side play team in 49. Their field is getting to this building at the same time as the rally. Now, it would be nice if the field was there like a second early, but basically this is what we look for when we look for a good attack. Everything is attacking together. And yes, this rally is being swarmed. It looks like it's going to be a Scipio Tariq rally, so a more of a glass cannon type of rally rather than a Scipio William or a Scipio Pakal. But what I'm looking for at this point, Dan, is like, does 49 play like at this point, right? I haven't seen them all season. They practice a lot. It's a pretty similar team to what they've had in the past. What do they look like? Now, I thought that was going to be a good attack. It got pretty well rejected by 16OT. But, you know, what is 49 doing here? And let's say this. Their last couple of attacks have not worked, right? They attacked both altars at the same time. Neither of those worked. And they have not cast no mark yet either.
Yeah, they do come out with a. They actually do come out with a dust up and then a sun sailor from 16OT. We saw this. I saw this last week with 1875. They did exactly this. They put the sun sailors in front of their gate to, I guess, get these troops that are stuck behind in the starting zone up into this mid a little bit quicker. Do keep in mind that the enemy troops are 489 can use these sun sailors as well. A skill that we rarely see used, but a very interesting match to kind of start to experiment with things here, as it looks like 16OT has kind of been experimenting a majority of this match. Yeah, I'm like, as time keeps going on, I'm hoping that we're going to see things kind of stabilize and become more regular, but it's just, this is going to be the most unconventional arc match that I've ever seen.
Look at their start zone. Look at the blue team start zone, right? Mm-hmm. They're walking past the sun sailor. Like, they're not using the sun sailor. So I mean, okay, I'm gonna look at how long this skill lasts. Let's look at how long sun sailor lasts, right?
Oh, these guys are really trying to keep us on our toes here. Like, what the heck is going on in this arc match? But I do want to say, going back to that desert altar attack that we looked at, that is the definition of a good attack. As we can see another one here on the bottom side, Sky Altar. You want to have those kind of timings paired up, and I've seen, especially in this season, the teams that are kind of falling and losing on those ends are the ones that don't have these timings down. You want to have as much field presence with your rallies as possible, because it's going to be in your favor, because it's so easy to swarm these rallies down. And as soon as the rally is done, that garrison is really going to start putting on work on whatever is trying to swarm it. And this is going to be a successful attack from 49, taking this outside lane Sky Altar away from 16OT. 3 minutes until arc is going to spawn. And anyone coming through on the sun sailor?
Yeah, they're coming through. They're coming through, and they're getting a warm welcome on the other side. So the thing with sun sailor is it does last for 10 minutes. These two gates are going to last for 10 minutes, or when 50 marches go through. And so I think they cast it because their skill bar was full. That's the reason they cast it when they did. But like, they put it on 49's side of the map.
Yeah.
So like, they can just stand here and kill the marches that walk through. And like, this dude is having so much fun, he's just gonna visit them on the other side.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to try this thing out.
Yeah. I mean, you're a comfortable enough lead. You're 5.5, K points ahead on this match. So I mean, you might as well go and take a little road trip down to the 16OT gate to see what that view looks like over there. I'm this is insane, Brian.
I mean, why put the gate there, right? Like, aren't you gaining more if you put the gate like on your side of the temple? Like,
yeah.
Aren't you gaining way less value by putting it where you did?
100
compared to putting it just safely on your side.
Yeah, and they're still coming through, and it's just a feeding frenzy for these guys over here. Like, oh my goodness, great. Like, I can understand, like, if you had the sun sailor up and maybe you're now waiting, right? You're waiting until these murder balls are set. I mean, 489 is going to know that this thing is here. They are going to have to honor it, right? You're going to keep a player or two there. But like, yeah, the time, I mean, I can understand a little bit, but you need to have the timing a little bit better, right? That murder ball needed to be way up here before you started sending troops through until you saw that this was going to be a little bit more cleared out. But yeah, this is not looking like a very clean play. We have a sneaky tactics from that was 16 OT and then 489 with a to the death all in the middle. So this is probably going to get pretty get wiped pretty cleanly here from on for 489 side, and they are going to be just comfortably in the driver's seat on the back half end of this match here.
Yeah, looking good for 489 in this mid fight. You can see the sad faces coming out now from blue team. So a numbers advantage for red here in the mid, and then also casting to the death, getting this massive damage for one straight minute, and it is resulting in 20 or 30 sad faces from blue. We're not seeing really any sad faces from 489. So yeah, looking like they're going to clean up the second mid as well.
Yeah, and on top of all that, a 4 altar swing. This is not looking good for 16 OTA. I believe only 3 of the altars are generating points for 49 right now. Yeah. This one just captured right before this first mid-arc fight. So yeah, really questionable calls here. This very much looks like it was an experimental match from 16 OT with all of the different kind of tactics that they were trying. And you have to think like these are some of the things that you try like once you're in the grand finals. Like when you have the opportunities to afford a loss, when you're playing a series of matches, like this semifinals is not the time to start experimenting it and get fancy. And 16 OT is really paying the price for some of these moves that they were trying to enact, and 489 is, I think, gonna cleanly just take this match here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a snowball effect here. I think the no march at the start, if we just have to look at that objectively, it was just like badly executed, right? Like, how do you cast a 6-point skill, a super valuable 6-point skill, and then like have no rally on the building and not even swarm at the same time? And it's just it's very interesting to me, Dan. I mean, I was in KL yesterday. We had a very hard fought KL against some pretty strong kingdoms like 2563, and at one point last night, I was fighting, against their biggest whales, and we were charging into their ball, and they were just beating us over and over again. And I'm trying to like micromanage like everything that's happening. I'm like, what are they doing? How do we engage these guys better? Should I be retreating as soon as my screen flashes red, or should I wait half a second before my screen flashes red to retreat? And it's like, all these little engagement details matter so much.
Yeah.
And what we saw here from 16 OT is like they don't swarm at the same time. Half their ball dies before the first mid fight. The second mid fight, they're just sending marches through the gate to lose like a 5 versus 1.
Yeah.
And it's just very interesting to me, like how there are all these levels to this game, and I don't know. It's like sometimes you think the teams that have all these levels mastered, they apparently don't. Maybe I'm overthinking things, but anyway, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it was. I like the intention in a way, right? Like I think like just to open the match with no mark and try and make a play on the ob. Like yes, it could have been a little bit better. I like the intention, but I think like the execution on these attempts just needed to be cleaned up a little bit, right? Like the no mark absolutely makes sense in the beginning of the match, but you just need to execute it a little bit better. The Sun Sailor, innovative idea, but you just kind of put it on the wrong side of the Temple of Osiris, as we see 16 OT come in with a time warp into a no mark, trying to counteract some of those points, as 489 does cash the arc again right away. So true score 20,000 points to 9.7. As you can see, trying to make up those points with the no mark, but just not still really kind of getting it done here, as the points per minute are in favor for 489. Occupation scores, arc of Osiris scores, kills, all leaning in favor of 489. And yeah, I again, going back to like all the plays that we've kind of seen, I like the intention, but the execution just needs to be a little bit better here. And you have to think like you know, was this the time to go in and try it? And I think that they're kind of, you know, figuring out that answer the hard way here.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a bad time for the second no mark. They did flip back their 2 altars as that no mark
Okay.
was cast. So they reduced the capture time by a minute. So that's like immediate value for the no mark. Now they are pressuring the Shrine of War a bit on the top side. No rally there, but at least a pretty sizable swarm against this Eleanor that may work. And so, you know, maybe they're going to get some value for the no mark here. I wonder if at the beginning of the match, what they were planning to do was a sneaky tactics. And then once they saw that they were spotted out and the sneaky tactics wasn't going to work, they changed it to no mark. That I think that's possible.
Yeah,
because they do have the sneaky tactics on the bar.
And that looked like a contingent of troops that was going for a sneaky tactics play, right? Like that wasn't just, you know, oh, we're gonna you know, set these troops up to no mark and take like you know, what, a 5-minute walk all the way down to that obelisk. So I think that is definitely valid in saying that that was probably their intention there, and just unfortunately getting sniffed out from that 489 sentry.
Yep, absolutely. They do flip the Shrine of War there. If we do want to look at a 49 attack, we can look at the Sky Altar on the bottom side. That's an attack that's developing right now. You can see that the field is getting there. The rally is coming in behind. Again, this is what you want to see from a strong attack. Field setting the table for the Attila Subutai rally to come in, giving it a slightly cleaner path. You see that the marchers are trying to swarm this Attila Subutai. They're chasing it. They've literally circled around to try and swarm this thing, but they're all very low health at this point. Blue is very low health to swarm this thing, and this looks like a very promising attack for 49. Their leader Ava rallying this Sky Altar down.
Yeah, that was a really nice play. And then even like to compound on that, like what you want to do in those situations as you're pushing up with the field and you're kind of clearing that path for the rally, which that was, if I've ever seen a clean path, that was like textbook right there. Then you also want to build your rage, and then as soon as rally hits, you're going to now swap targets onto the structure. So now you're kind of rage loaded, and as soon as you swap onto the target, should hopefully unload a lot of skills onto the altar. But this is going to be a very good defense here from 16OT, as there is still a pretty good amount of marches coming in from the 489 side, getting some reinforcements into the rally, which is key. So the rally is going to be able to stay up here, getting a little bit extra swarm support. I would expect a couple more reinforcements into this rally as well. And then right as this offensive is going on, you can see a nice little rally coming through here for 16OT onto that Shrine of Life for 489. But very good attack and defense here from both teams. This is a little bit more standard and traditional from what we're used to seeing in typical arc play for sure.
Yep, even a commander swap here, that the Gorgo garrison getting now swapped to a CY garrison. So even making sure that the garrison does not get popped. We see the Gorgo now in the field very, very low. So they did want to swap that thing out. And yeah, very well played here by both teams. I think Red's got enough, though. They've got enough fresh marches coming in that even if the rally goes down, they can probably swarm what's left of this garrison.
Yeah, that was good. Kind of good resilience there from the 489 players, and those rotations are tough, right? Like you have, if you're those kind of late players coming in, you feel like you need to be up at that rally and you feel like your timings are a little bit off, but that actually worked very much into the favor of 489, where those, whether he was late or not, those marches definitely just made the difference here. No garrison for 489, so this is probably going to flip back to 16OT relatively quickly. Topside Desert Altar still in hand for 16OT, so they are looking like more stabilized now. Aside all the kind of trickery and stuff aside, they definitely are stabilized a little bit more, and it looks like they're kind of settling into more traditional, you know, kind of a gameplay pattern. Even with a pretty nice rotation here into Arc, and we can see this topside kind of clearing out relatively almost entirely. 489 has a little bit of contingent here for a potential defense, but this topside is pretty cleared out here, and this is looking to be a kind of all-in Arc scenario where 489 is kind of sending everything they have from that top side.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get an even arc fight here. It remains to be seen if we'll get a precisely even fight, but this will at least be a conventional arc fight. Interesting that 49 is taking the temple every single time. They were very different last season. They would ball up very far back and then attack into the enemy kind of late into the proceedings. So they have had a very different approach this season. That is interesting for sure. And both teams are now very close to one another at the temple. Let's again see, we've got 2 minutes before the next arc. Let's again see if there's some sort of interesting engage here, or if they do actually have a staring contest for once.
Yeah, the skills are definitely going to be in favor for 489 as that time warp into a no mark. Oh, and here comes 489's time warp into another to the death. And we're seeing that more and more happen too, Bri. Like that's almost kind of becoming a little bit more of a standard. And that's why it's like, it's almost alarming to me when I don't see time warp on the skill bar for these teams. But 16OT, or no, it was 489 who didn't have it last week. So they did make that adjustment. I think time warp, arguably one of the strongest skills, just for the simple fact that you can cast this to the death, you know, in back-to-back sequences like this. And again, you cap out on the value a little bit, but we've seen all these new skills kind of enter the fray. To the death has been here all throughout, and it's still sticking onto people's skill bars. So that just shows you how powerful of a skill to the death is.
To the death is amazing. We're seeing it put in more work again, just an absolute sad face train from Blue. We were hoping for the conventional mid fight. We did not get it, Dan. No skills cast by 16OT in this mid fight. 10 points cast, or excuse me, 8 points cast by 49, 0 points cast by 16OT, and they're just getting cleaned up completely again.
Yeah, I think
maybe they didn't have enough points.
They
might have only to the death left.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. Definitely no, because as we look at the skill usages here, that 16OT no mark was at 31:59, so about 7 minutes ago. So yeah, it's going to take some time to get that skill bar refreshed here. And again, maybe questionable attempts. Even in my interview with Silent that I did yesterday, he even said too that Sun Sailor is a pretty neat skill, but it's expensive at being 5. So if you look at this, the skills on 16OT's board, a 6-pointer, a 5-pointer, a 6-pointer, and as you called out, probably another 6-pointer into the death there. So again, a little bit questionable call. Sneaky tactics they needed to have on the board for their plan, and you do get a little bit of value in that on those mid arc fights anyway. But yeah, you got to be careful when you're loading up these skill bars with just too many high point skills, and I think that's where 16OT felt that pinch a little bit there on that arc fight.
Yeah, we can see from the 16OT skill bar that they were trying for an unconventional game here. They were trying to surprise 49. I mean, regardless of what that 6 skill is, whether it's dust up or whether it's to the death, they have only 2 skills to fight mid. Sneaky tactics plus whatever that other skill is.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to do something different. They were trying to do something totally different than they did last week. Last week, they won 4 out of 4 arcs. And this week, they rolled into the match with almost no mid-fighting skills. So I think that strategy required a good start. It required some sort of obelisk play at the beginning, or at least like a high-value no mark.
Yeah.
And it just kind of got out of control very fast for 16OT with that skill bar. As you say, a bunch of high point skills, it reduces your flexibility. It reduces the things that you can do with your skill bar because you just have to cast a skill and then wait a very long time to cast something else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, again, like you have dust up, you have even tear down as being like a 2-point skill. Like we don't see that being used very often, but it does appear on people's skill bars from time to time. And you know, and if you see a master strategist, we did see the sneaky tactics from 16OT going in for the master strategist play here, trying to snipe the arc as 489 is looking to just cash these things. We might get a swarm down on this outpost here.
I don't kill this march fast.
I don't know if this is again, the timings execute, like the intention is so good, but the execution is just a little bit off for 16 OT as 49 cashes the arc.
It's like, hello, thank you for watching me walk the arc into the building.
Yeah, wasted value yet again. And I think on a lot of these sequences that 16 OT has been trying to enact some of these plays, they're just losing so much value because the execution is just slightly, ever so slightly off. And when you're playing the best of teams in Osiris League, this is the semifinals. The margin for error is so small, and 49 is putting on a display here, showing you just how those small margins, even though slightly off, can have a massive snowball effect. And 49 is so cleanly in the driver's seat here. 560 points per minute for them, 180 points per minute, 16 OT. And you can just see this starting to really inflate here, Bri.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. I mean, that's a crazy bar that we're looking at on the left. Sun Sailor and Master Strategy. Really wild stuff by 16OT. They were trying to almost steal multiple arcs or surprise them in the mid multiple times. What's funny to me is that they look pretty good on the sides. Like, this is a very nice attack on the Desert Altar here by the blue team. Rally plus Swarm, really pressuring this Eleanor down. And they've also defended a lot of their buildings to some pretty good attacks by 489. So it's very interesting to me that they went completely crazy on their bar. And then some of their players are looking at that bar and looking at these decisions, and they're like, dude, we're literally matching them in the field. Like,
yeah,
it didn't have to be this crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's got to be a tough one to swallow too. You know, because you as a player, you just can you have to have trust in your coaches and trust in the planners, and I think if 16OT, they definitely would want to run this back, and I think that they would definitely do it in a little bit of a different manner, because you're totally right. I mean, some of these attacks, some of these defenses, like it took them a little while to stabilize, but we've seen, the timings be kind of crisp for 16OT in both attack and defense. So yeah, I would really like to see a run back of this match, although it's not going to happen, but they were able to stabilize, and it's just some of these skill decisions and the executions just being slightly off, and it's a shame to kind of see them go down like this, because they have been playing a relatively clean match otherwise.
Yeah, to be fair, the blue team has had a no mark buff on for 10 minutes of this match, whereas 49 has still not even cast what we assume is a no mark on their bar.
Oh yeah.
So they haven't really used all the buffs that have been allowed to them. So at the end of the day, it's like a very clean looking performance by 49, and they didn't really have to give everything away. I think what's happening in the Osiris League this season is that a lot of these teams are practicing against teams from other realms, right? So next week, 49 is going to face either Beer or 748W. I think maybe 49 was practicing with Beer before the realms got set, but my guess is that they're not practicing with either of their opponents for next week. And they didn't have to give anything away here, and they're probably going to get a very good scout later today when Beer plays against 748W, because that match is going to be so intense, so close, that I do think both teams are going to have to put all their cards out on the table.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like this added wrinkle into this Osiris League that we've seen now, because you have the ability to kind of go in and review these matches. So, the top tier teams are going to do their homework. They're going to go in and scout. And to your point, 489 is going to be able to kind of skate out of this match without really revealing their hand too much. And that is going to be quite the match on the other side. 748W, the Realm of Bastet champions from last year, and then Beer, the rebranded 1EE8 team. Really kind of I cast that match last week, and they were it was unlike the standard play that I've seen from 1EE8. Looks like they have a little bit more juice on that team now, and a team that we've seen be masterful at provisions. They didn't really need to rely on it too much, but that team is capable of doing it. So you have the Realm of Beset champions going against the newly rebranded team, so that'll be definitely interesting to see here. And 49 is going to be kind of just waiting in the mist, getting a free scout on that match, as you said.
Yeah, we're seeing the Sun Sailor again here, and I was hoping that we would see what 16OT had in mind with the Sun Sailor, where like maybe they teleport in early and take control of the 49 side of mid, but like they're just standing here at this, you know what I mean? I was expecting them to go through early, but instead Baby Shark is just standing here, not going through. Somebody else cast the skill. Tiger cast the skill. It's almost like Baby Shark is just staring at this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
and it is quite unfortunate too that there's a sentry sitting right next to
yeah,
Sun Sailors.
exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like 489 kind of knew the plan and plays of 16 OT here. It's looking a little suspect. Did you
They actually have a sentry of both. It's actually pretty easy, right? You see where the gates are dropped.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
you can just put the sentry there and see what's going to happen.
You can see 49 starting to go through and have a little bit of fun here now on right in front of the cities of 16 OT.
I mean, at this point, they're playing for kill points, no doubt. The MVP is definitely up for grabs. At this point, it is actually Dr. Pot from 16OT who has the highest score. So, yeah, if the way to get points is to warp onto the enemy's side, then that's what you do.
Yeah. The
pretty big fight here. Actually, pretty big fight here at the obelisk.
Yeah, looks like 49 is almost kind of sending the house here. I want to see if I can grab see how many of these teleports have come through so far. And there's a lot.
What's the time? What are the timers that we're looking at right here?
I think it takes about 10 seconds for your troops to teleport through the Sun Sailor. So even as I was discussing it with Silent on the interview, he that was another point that he had mentioned too, that the timer is just a little bit too long. So not only is it a 5-point skill, but the Sun Sailor itself also takes time to get set up. And then you need to wait to teleport through it. So we can see here 18 out of the 50 players in general, anyone can use this, can go through. So I believe that is the timer, and we can maybe get a confirmation here, but I'm almost positive that is the timer for them to teleport over. Yep, as you can see them starting to go through, and that was a nice little brawl that we saw there from 489. And 16 knows
they are warping a lot of people in here, right? The mid is spawning in a minute, and they did warp in a bunch of players to sort of even out the odds for this mid fight. And listen, Master Strategy costs 6 points. Sun Sailor does cost 1 less point, and you can actually warp faster, right? If it takes, maybe it takes 10 seconds to set up, but then it only takes 10 seconds to warp. Master Strategy does take 20 seconds to develop.
And you can get more players through as well too. Right.
So I can see how it's like an upgraded Master Strategy in certain ways.
I would be curious if we see plays potentially on that. And again, this is such a new skill that I think that there is going to be some more experimenting with it from some of these teams. We might not see it now since we're in the semifinals heading into the finals. Maybe we see a little bit of playfulness in the grand finals once we get into some of these series matches where losses can be afforded. But I would be curious to see if we see some Sun Sailor plays like this, but instead of positioning it here, teams will position it on the troops that are starting to march into the murder ball. So if you get a Sun Sailor up a little bit early to start to disrupt the middle rotations there, that is probably something that I would look to play around with, because that could get. Whenever I play ARC matches, I swear there's nothing more frustrating when I'm trying to get into the mid and there's like a yellow march or a red march just picking off my troop and slowly dinging down the health. Now you add that to 30, 40 marches in your backline starting to pick off those marches that are supposed to be going to mid, and you can get some pretty interesting plays there. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that.
Yeah, you made a good point earlier about how some of the marches were rage building as their rally approached. And it's kind of a similar thing that you're talking about here, where it's like you get this extra value where you're hitting the march that's walking to mid, and you're also walking to mid with them.
Yeah.
And we talk about micro optimizations in this game a lot, all sorts of different areas that you can get added value. But I think at the end of the day, when you want to talk about big value, it's skill damage. It's doing your active skill more often than your opponents do.
Yeah.
And rage cycling is a way to do that. Having better positioning than your opponent is a way to do that. being surrounded by your teammates is a way to do that, where some of the buffs of some of the commanders give you more rage. Some of the items like drums give you more rage.
Mhm.
I think that's in many ways where this game is going, is like getting edges in the actual fights. And, you know, a lot of this maneuvering with these skills like Sun Sailor and Master Strategy, that's part of it, is getting your marches in the right position to actually just have like a basic fighting edge.
Yeah, I agree. That is a good point, and although it's like innovative, but it all comes down to like the fundamentals, right? Of fighting as a team, like you said, utilizing the skills of your commanders and, just fighting together. And the more you can fight together and not kind of scattered, the more effects you're going to have. Since we're kind of like rotating onto the topic of commanders, one thing I noticed last week from the 60MX match was there was a lot of Bai Chi in the field. I'm not seeing too much of it in this match, but 60MX had about like 20 million more kills than their opponent, and we're creeping up on that here too for 489. But 60MX looked very dominant last week against 1875 with a lot of extra Bai Chis in the field. What are your thoughts on Bai Chi kind of entering the fray for this Osiris League season? Do you think that he's going to have as much of an impact as I think he's having?
Yeah, I think that BQ is a great arc commander. I used BQ yesterday for the first time, and I didn't feel like he was OP. He's a bit of a glass cannon, and also felt a little bit slow. He has March speed on him, but like someone on voice yesterday was like, does this dude not have March speed because he seems really slow?
Yeah.
I looked it up. He does have 20% March speed, but yeah, he can, in KVK, he can like get caught out or just get punished, right? He can get punished in KVK. And so the trade is not so good. What's nice about him in Arc is that he is basically a berserker style commander who does more damage as he gets lower in health. So, and that's what Arc is all about. Arc is all about damage per second.
Yes.
And so BQ is really good in terms of damage per second. And so I think that's a big reason why we see him. I think the other reason you see him is that infantry is so strong now, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, Dan, yesterday I ran Guan Scipio again. I don't have Ragnar yet. I ran Guan Scipio again. This march is still trading better than half of my marches.
Wow.
And so with infantry, I think that skill commander infantry is still good for Arc, but infantry as a whole is so strong that you want to have that second infantry march out there, and BQLC is just the way to go for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, like it does a lot of damage, like BQ does a lot of damage, but then that Ragnar Scipio also does a lot of damage.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And I was playing around with BQ yesterday in a practice match as well. And I did feel a little bit of the same on the notion that he's a little slow. And I don't know why that is, because Liucha also has March speed to him, but he was rather slow. And maybe it's just that play that you see with the Skippy and the support commanders being primary that you see in these matches. Like you see a lot of Herman primes primary, a lot of Joan primaries. That's because of the hasty departure. So the March speed is very much important when it comes to arc matches, because everything is so much about timing. So I guess like he's going to offer you a lot of value in the field from a damage perspective, but you have to be a little bit more technical with him because he is going to be slower than most of your other marches that are going to be in the field. But as I'm like looking at it now, I am seeing more and more BQs on the side for 489. So it's one thing I'm going to be focusing in on, because I noticed it last week. It was a clear difference of how much more BQs were in the field for 60MX as opposed to 1875. So it's one thing that I've continued to be keying in on it. And another thing too, with like new commander releases, we haven't seen any Tokugawa, which is interesting. I don't think he's really meant for Arc. He doesn't kind of have that anti-swarm that Gorgo has, but we haven't seen anyone kind of try and get playful with him either. So quite interesting there.
Yeah, one other thing to notice here is we see a ton of Joan primaries, we see a ton of Herman primaries, and we see a ton of Scipio primaries. These are absolute flips of what you would see in KVK. You would see all three of those commanders being secondaries, but because of the march speed they get from their talent trees, we are seeing Joan primaries, Scipio primaries, Herman primaries. For everybody out there who plays Arc, if you want to have a slight edge, go to the effort of setting these commanders up ahead of time, set your marches ahead of time to have these guys as the primary, set those talent trees. And I mean, if the top teams are doing this, then why would the rest of us be lazy and not do it? I know that my own team, we're running like Nevsky Joan instead of Joan Nevsky. We're running Ragnar Scipio instead of Scipio Ragnar. We're running ZL Hermans. I mean, make the change. Go to the effort to make the change. If the top teams are doing it, they know better than we do.
Yeah, 100%. I always say we're just the silly little casters up here. And even going through some of these interviews and just like being able to get insights of like these professional players, right? I'm going to keep kind of harping on that because with the amount of practice, and Bri, because you go in and you kind of get the kind of the inside scoop on these teams practicing. So Brian can tell you from a firsthand perspective, but these players, the top of the tops, are going to be kind of in the realm of esports. Like these guys do their homework, they practice nonstop, and you can see kind of some of that practice paying off here for 16 OT. As that was again a pretty nice clean attack, a very well accompanied rally, but. Yeah, I mean, these guys, like tons of respect to all these top tier ARC teams, even though this match is a little bit of a blowout because we do know that these teams go in and put in the effort to practice. And, they are kind of the professionals here. So got to do your homework. And for those who are watching, take some of these tips and apply them into your own ARC matches.
One interesting thing, and we might be seeing the gap here a little bit, is that there's essentially two buckets of practice for Osiris League. One bucket is when you use your own marches and you also use your own speed ups because these teams are trying to replicate what actually happens in a real match. And so when they are practicing against another top team, they're going to use their own speed ups to heal their troops. It's not going to be a ton of speed ups per match. It might be maybe 10 million troops healed total. So that's maybe like 15 or so hospitals. But a lot of the top teams in the big whale kingdoms, like 489 and 960, they will practice in that way. Other teams will only practice in balanced mode because in balanced mode, you have so many troops that you don't have to use any speed ups for these practice matches. And it's mostly maybe smaller kingdoms that are doing that, Dan, but there is one top team that only does balanced mode. You might be able to guess which one it is.
Oh, don't put me on the spot here.
Well, just look at your own look down at your own feet and guess very close to home.
1093.
Yeah, it's 1093. 1093 does balance mode, so they're not really practicing as much with teams like 49 and Beer and 960. And I would guess that 1316 maybe falls in that camp as well because again, they're just not getting as many speed ups every day. Because they're not dropping as many gold chests as a kingdom like 960 or 49 is.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. And this is the where Brian and I were talking beforehand. We're both a little slower today because I did do the practice match yesterday with 93 in balance mode too, nonetheless. So,
yeah, well, there you go.
And yes, like it's. Those matches are good because number one, it's fun because you get to play with an account that obviously isn't yours and it's stacked to the gills and you can run whatever you want. But like you have to be careful with that too because even yesterday as I was playing, like I was able to just consistently just keep sending out marches, and on my own account, I can't do that at all. Like I'll probably have like 2 or 3 good fights within an ARC match, and then I'm gonna have to start healing my hospital. So these practice matches do tell you a lot, and like from a balance perspective, it can help you kind of like lay down the framework for what your strategy is going to be. But you definitely want to try and start to get into some of those like actual practice matches too, although a little difficult, of course, because you have to, like you said, you have to start using some of your own speed ups, but that is truly what's gonna give you the timings that you're going to be able to replicate within the match. So yeah, a little slow there, but the balanced arc matches are very fun. If you guys haven't tried it, definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's a very cool format that now everyone can play Arc. I'm still waiting for someone to set up a Discord server where you can just do pickup Arc matches as soon
Oh,
as 30 people sign up. Um, I'm starting to really get into balance mode. I enjoy Champions of Olympia as well. Champions of Olympia is in balance mode, so you can just try everything out.
mm,
You know, if you want to try out BQ before you get it, you can go into Olympia and give yourself a BQ Lucci and then put all 4 special inscriptions from the pincer formation on
yeah.
and, you know, try that one out. Um, you know, talking about commanders, Dan, the other thing I did was I ended up building I converted to combo attack and I ran Arthur Phillip in the field with combo attack.
Hmm.
I know you and I are both Cav players, and I gotta tell you, man, that thing it just got melted. It was one of my faster marches, and so it fanned forward. It tended to die, you know, faster than both my infantry marches.
Hmm.
I'm seeing Arthur Phillip out here today, so it does seem like people are valuing that march. But I have to say, it was pretty disappointing on day one of running Arthur Phillip with brand new combo attack stuff.
Yeah, I think once you and I tried to run some tests on my end too because I do have the butterfly inscription, so I took it off for a little bit and I was running. But on the flip side, I was actually I was getting. I mean, this is KVK talking, so the play style is totally different. But in KVK format, I was getting a lot of value with that march. Now in an arc setting, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know if Arthur Phillip is kind of the play here. You do want to have the Phillips in the field because of the buffs are so good that you're getting, but it's just hard, I feel like, to get him with like the proper commanders in a way. But yeah, I mean that's another thing that kind of goes into this, right? Is like the commander selection of these teams and how that composition is going to turn out. I remember seasons ago when Trajan first came into the game, and it's like, oh, if you don't have a Trajan, you know, you're gonna lose.
You can't win a mid.
Yeah, you can't win mid. So, the commander, you know, picks definitely have an impact here. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think within an arc match, and you lose a lot of his kit, so you can't really swarm with him. So, but sorry, a little bit of a tangent as we close out this match. 489, congratulations. Looks like they are moving on to the finals where the winner of Beer and 740W lies in the midst. Brian, it was a pleasure casting with you. Brian and my links to our channels are in the description down below. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel here. Brian, any closing thoughts on this match?
Very nice win for 49. Dan and I will both be back in 1 hour. We're going to each be casting another exciting semifinal match on this official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Do throw a like on this live stream on your way out, and we will see you all in an hour.
Later, guys. Peace.